Hello, welcome to Setting Up the Tech Table at Burney. We're going to go over some of the components of the AV system here. This is kind of for a more advanced program that will include projection, audio, and stage lighting. So we're just going to go over what's here. So this is the audio console. It's the Yamaha TF1 digital audio console. This is a Smart Fade ML lighting console. This will control both the house lights and the stage lights. This is one of our staff computers, and it's plugged into our AV system using the Extron nav system by HDMI. It is also plugged into the receiver for the wireless advancer that the participants will use to advance their slides. Now the plugs that we're going to use on the wall for this are, this power outlet is going to power our system. We're going to use this DMX1 input and the DMX3 input. Now these are 5-pin DMX, so we're going to use 5-pin DMX cable. Then on this side, we have the audio input XLR, so this will be the wall plate audio input. And we have the AV Cat6 plugs. So this is where we will plug in the audio console and the Extron nav box, so that audio can have access to the Dante network, and so that the nav system can send video up to the projectors. Alright, so we're ready to start plugging things in. First we're going to start with power. We're going to use this yellow reel. I like using these, they're just convenient and they keep the cables neat and tidy. So we're going to pull out some slack, place it on this end of the table so that you have room for your feet when you're sitting here operating the system. Run the cable under the table's legs and plug it in. Good. Okay, so power for lighting is going to go here. And then it has a plug that actually screws in here. This guy has a little collar that will screw on. So I'll plug that in there. And we're going to screw that in to make sure it stays in place. If we lose power during the show, everything will go all wonky. Okay. We're going to use a normal AC cable, also known as IEC or an Edison cable. Always make sure you roll your Velcro. Plug that here at the AC in plug on the audio console. Okay. Very good. Now we're going to run some data cables so that the audio system can access the Dante, and so that the video system can get to the projectors. So now we're going to use the primary port on the Dante card of the Yamaha console. Now for these, since these are going around to the back wall, we're going to feed them up over this part of the table just to keep them out of our way. And there we go. Now it doesn't matter which of these plugs you plug into. Now for the Extron nav box, it also doesn't matter which plug on the wall you use, as long as it's one of these 4 at the AV modules. Plug that in there. Run it over here. And there's only one Ethernet port on here that we will use for this. Good. Now this device will power on as soon as you've got it plugged into the wall. It receives its power over Ethernet. Now I'm just sticking this cable under the device just to hold it in place so it's not popping out. So we've got data. Now we're going to run the audio XLR cable for the audio console, and it's going to go here into this plug on the wall. Thank you. Now again, I'm going to keep my coil here just to keep everything neat and tight. And now this is going to plug into output 16 on the console. Your main outputs are always going to be 15, 16, unless you only have 8 outputs, in which case it would be 7 and 8. It's always the last 2. Okay, so that's audio. Now you're going to need 2 5-pin DMX cables to plug the lighting console in. So we're going to take the first one. We're going to make sure we roll our Velcro. And this one's going to go to the DMX1 input. That's the first plug on this panel here. There, you want to make sure that your coil, the loose end of your coil, faces up over here. Otherwise, you're going to be pulling cable from the bottom of your coil. Now, input 1 on the wall corresponds to input or output 1 on your console. So you're going to go here, and that plug is right there. Okay. Get our second 5-pin DMX cable. Now we're using actually 2 cables plugged into each other. These are both too short to do the run by themselves, but all of our other cables are really long, and we want to keep our workspace neat and tidy, so we're just using these 2 tied together. Now this is going into DMX3 input on the wall, and now that DMX3 input will go into the only other 5-pin DMX output on the lighting console, which is DMX2. To recap, DMX output 2 from the console goes to DMX input 3 on the wall. So for this event, it involves a lot of videos and music cues. So we're running a separate audio output from the computer to the audio console. So we're going to use the headphone jack of the computer using an 1/8 inch to stereo 1/4 inch cable over here to the audio console. And this is going to give us separate control over the computer audio so that we can fade music in and out and just have better control tonally and on and off kind of abilities. You also want to make sure you get your computer's power plugged in. Last thing you want is your computer dying during the event. Okay. So now that your system is plugged in, you can skirt this to cover up all the cables. When you're done, you can take the rest of the skirt and throw it into that little, the same place where you're running the cables on this side. You can stuff it into that place on that side. So that's it. Your tech table is now plugged in.